All right, everyone. Hello, this is Christine Clifton with Mindful Business Matters. Welcome to Embrace the Flow, Ditch the Plan, or I should say it the other way around, ditch the plan, embrace the flow. And today we've got an action-packed, probably 45 minutes of content for you, where I'm going to give you a little history of my planning experience so you can see my progression to where I am today. And then I'm going to show you how I plan. I'm using air quotes for those of you listening to the audio today, so that you can see a lot of the iterations in between where I started and where I am today. What I've learned in my path of teaching my clients is that the different iterations, people might be ready for the different iterations. So that might resonate with you, and where I am today may not. Where I started might resonate with you. So your job today is to find out what resonates for you with what you're hearing today. So I'd love for you to take a deep belly breath, wiggle your tailbone if you're sitting, that kind of grounds you and connects you. And then I want you to be able to check into your own intuition so you know what you're supposed to be taking from this class today. Hi, Bruce. Welcome. I'm going to mute you. All right. I thought everything was muted. You know what? I am going to just really quick check my settings on this call and make sure that everyone gets muted when they join us. Give me one quick second. Da, da, da. You guys can hum the Jeopardy music. Okay. Yeah, I'm not finding the settings, but anyway, here we are, and we'll keep going then. All right, so I've got notes over here to the side, so if you see me looking off camera, looking at my cue cards so that I can make sure that I cover everything that I wanted to bring today. So again, we're going to start with about 45 minutes of content. Stay as long as you can, watch the recording for the rest, and then we're going to open it up for live Q&A. So make notes of your questions as we go, and I'm going to take you through that path that I just described, but also show you where I am today. But I want to give you some background because I think the background's important. Now, here's what I found out about soul-powered, creative thinking entrepreneurs. We act differently than everybody else because we know we have a higher force, higher power, whatever your belief system, that is at play on our behalf. Now, whether you call that God, the universe, Bob, tree, whatever, it's your higher power. You know that there's another energy at play that's acting on our behalf. And so when we think about planning, and everybody's getting on this planning bandwagon, which I used to do, by the way, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I don't anymore, is that we have a vision of what a plan is, and that it's this concise kind of linear thing. And I'm going to do some screen share myself along the way here. So I'm going to share my screen. So hold on. Let me share this. I just did these quick on Word today. You guys can see how I just create in a moment. So here's what we think planning is. P is for perfect. L is for linear, right? A is for action. We want action. And actually it's narrow as well, because it's the linear plan, or the written plan, is what we have written down. So it's a bit narrow. And here's what I think embracing the flow is all about. Let me stop share and let me give you my other example here. Hold on. Oh, I can't find it right away. Hold on. Don't you love being human, everybody? Let's see. Open. Yes. This is the one I want to share. So let me hop back over to the share button. And here's where I'm going to take you guys today. So I'm going to take you to flexible, light, which is energetic lightness, O being open, and W being wondrous. Now, here's the thing about acronyms. I happen not to love acronyms. So I know that when they come into my purview, and for me, I call spirit, God, universe, kind of those interchangeable words. Spirit gives me acronyms. And I just laugh because I know that's spirit talking to me because I don't love acronyms. I was an Army brat, grew up with lots of acronyms. I spent 20 years in corporate, lots of acronyms there. So I know when they show up that they're spirit led because that's how spirit can cut through my planning or my own development for this class today. So this is what I think my new way of planning is. It's flexible, light, open, and wondrous. And I'm going to tell you what those things mean in a minute. Now, the thing that I want to tell you as well is that with the lightness, or, everything has light and shade. So with soul-powered entrepreneurs, being creative thinkers, being spiral thinkers, what that makes us great at is creating. We've created our business, our practice, or whatever you want to call it, your firm, out of nothing. All right. So you've created already. And that's what makes us so great, is that we are spiral thinking, that we are possibility thinking. But there's also some pitfalls to that sometimes. So if you sign up for this class and you're like, dang it, why doesn't planning resonate with me? Or you're judging yourself because you're procrastinating, or you're looking at yourself and everybody else is dumping into all this planning or vision boarding or whatever. And you're kind of like, that just doesn't work for me. Some of that comes with a pitfall as well. So if we don't have an architecture or a framework towards what it is we want to create, then we're going to be easily distracted. Okay, bright, shiny object syndrome, right? We're going to be distracted. The other thing that the pitfall is that as creatives, we don't always see the depth and the breadth of what it's going to take to get done what it is we want to get done. Now, one of my clients is on the call today, Cheryl, and I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. She can speak to it later in the Q&A. But we had a project together that we were working towards the end, which actually launched today, yay. Yet I'm sure she would agree that the depth and breadth of it was much greater than she had ever imagined. And that's part of the pitfall. I'm using a lot of air quotes today because we judge ourselves for it, guys. This is why I'm using air quotes. Is the spiral thinking takes us into the possibilities, but it also is very untethering. So think about a helium balloon, okay? Without a tether, without a string, it's just going to float into the ethers. But with a string on it, it gets to bounce in the clouds, but it's still gaining traction because it's attached to something. And that's what planning, or the way I'm going to invite you to consider today, is going to be your tether. So you can gain that traction like you want. Now, the other thing too, the pitfall is that, well, some creative, visual, soul-powered entrepreneurs will say, well, I'll just get a virtual assistant, or I'll just get an assistant who can do all that detail work for me, and I don't have to worry about it. Well, guess what? If you don't understand the depth and breadth, how are you going to delegate it to an assistant? Right? And so some of us will hire assistants or virtual assistants, or I don't know, secretary or admin, and we think that they're going to guide us through the steps. And that really isn't their skill set. Their skill set is implementation. Now, if you're lucky enough to land on one who's going to manage you, right? Maybe a personal assistant or business assistant, that's something different. But if we're hiring admin or task people to get things done for us, we have to be able to know the depth and breadth of what we're doing so that we can delegate and assign. So again, what I'm going to show you towards the end of the call, my new way of planning, is going to help you with that as well. So I'm sure some of that resonates with you guys, and we're going to keep going then. So I want to give you my quick history about how I've arrived where I am today. It's funny, in the past couple of weeks, people have gotten these reminders in their inbox, and they're like, Christine, I didn't recognize you as Mindful Business Matters. I recognize you as Christine Clifton. And some of that for me is the mirror of where I've evolved to in terms of my own work. Now, I started in corporate, and I actually went to coaching school. I went to Coach U to learn how to coach. I'm forever thankful and loving that I had that experience. And now coaching is just one element that I use with my clients today. Now, here's where I didn't really resonate with the coaching model. The pure coaching model that I learned was you set a goal, you create the milestones to reach the goal, and then you can chink off the milestones as you go and achieve the goal. But what happened was I would find my clients procrastinating. I would find my clients not implementing what it was that they had outlined in terms of what they said that they wanted. And so what I ended up doing intuitively with my clients is asking them why. Okay, why are you choosing this goal? Why is this goal important to you? So let me give you one quick example. Weight loss is a really popular goal this time of year because people are like, oh my God, I put on the holiday 10 and now I've got to get it off. So if your goal was to lose 10 pounds, you know that you have to build structure behind that. So it might be, I'm going to eat a salad a day that you're going to put in terms of your actions. Or you might say, I'm going to walk around the block once a day. So you know that you have to build these actions behind that goal. But why? Why do you want to lose weight? Now, some people might say, well, I don't fit into my clothes. Well, okay, that's a motivator, right? I don't want to replace my wardrobe. That's not a goal of losing weight. That's the why behind why you're choosing it, okay? One person that I talked to once in my early days of coaching who wanted to lose weight, when I got behind the why, she started crying and she said, because I feel embarrassed that I can't get on and off the floor to play with my grandchildren. Okay, there's a why for you. Okay, so the why behind the goal is what really evokes the feeling behind what it is you're choosing to do. Now, for those of you who believe in the law of attraction, which I happen to, you know that the feeling is the resonance that gets sent out. And so if you're just saying, I want to lose weight because you're judging yourself because you can't fit in your jeans, that's one thing. It will amp up your achievement of that goal if you are able to connect to the why behind it or your vision behind the goal, the reasons why you're putting that in play. So this is what enables that flow that I mentioned earlier, the flexibility, the lightness, the openness, and the wonderment. That's what enables those things to happen. And then you're able to be agile. Okay, this was my word that came up for me in this past year, 2017. I began to see how much my new way of practice or being in the world was allowing me to be very agile. So when we have that linear plan of those goals, then we will often hiccup the opportunities that come in around it, or we might actually even leapfrog the emotional learning that we need to have behind the milestone. And so agility is the most amazing tool that you can have as a soul-powered entrepreneur, is to be able to say, wow, I'm calling in these things because of my vision. They weren't on my plan, if you had written a plan. And then you're like, what do I do with it? Is it a bright, shiny object again? Am I going to be distracted? Is it going to take me off my vision path? These are the questions you get to ask yourself then when you start with visioning in your approach to embracing the flow and ditching the plan. Okay, so let's talk about that. What I see in terms of visioning too, one of the mistakes with planning is that we're planning for work alone. We're planning for work or our business or our career alone when we plan. We don't broaden our scope of our, what I call, ideal life design. Now, as soul-powered entrepreneurs, one of the things that I will tell you, if you don't know this already, is that your sacred work shows up in every single thing that you do, not just your business. It shows up in your relationships. It shows up in your community. It shows up in your choices of volunteerism or hobbies. Your innate calling to show up in the world shows up every place. So if you are just planning for work, you are narrowing, remember the N in plan is narrow, you're narrowing the scope of possibilities for your business. So I have a couple examples I'm going to give you guys on some of these things as well. So when we harness that vision and we then are resonating, right, at that frequency or that vibration of our ideal life design, then when we go to the Christmas party or the New Year's Day brunch in our social or personal lives, then we know that the possibility is there that a connection, opportunity, or person might come into our purview that could serve our business. And vice versa. In the course of our business or our work, we might encounter an opportunity for our personal life as well. And it amps up. This is your voice that comes from vision. So we have vision, we have vibe, and now we have voice. You guys know that I love alliteration, so I create these things because of it. I'm part Mrs. Seuss, actually. So when we start with that vision, then we have that vibration, frequency, or resonance, which then employs our voice or the calling. So that voice is, in our business, we might say it might be messaging or an elevator pitch, but it's also in the ask, A-S-K, or how we're articulating what it is we're choosing in our life and our work. So that flow, embracing the flow, is inclusive of the vision, the vibration, and the voice, because it amplifies literally and figuratively our vision. Okay, our vision, vibe. When we use our voice to not only ask questions of the universe, God, Bob, tree, but it also is articulating to others what it is we're choosing for our life and business, it will amplify out into those connections that you have in your network. And that's why finding your voice is so important, because when you're able to articulate those things, not only to yourself or in your mind's eye for your vision, but also asking questions of the universe so that it calls in what you're choosing, but also to articulate out to others what it is that you're looking to do or calling in. Okay, so vision, vibe, voice, and then I wanted to find another V word. So I went on dictionary.com, which is one of my favorite places, and I found the word voyage because I wanted to articulate navigation then. So if you don't have a plan, and remember I told you about agility earlier, you want to find the harmony of the tether of that balloon and the bounciness of the balloon up in the ethers, because that's your creativity. That's what makes you money. That's what makes you connect. That's what helps you create, right, is bouncing up in the ethers. But that tether is the navigation point. And that's where the agility comes in, is that when you are using your vision, when you are really resonating, when you're using your voice to ask questions and to call in and to connect with others and let them know what you're choosing, now you're going to have things coming in and you're like, how am I going to do this? Okay, so let me give you an example. Again, I don't think I'm speaking out of school. Cheryl's on the call. She's one of my clients. Here's one of the things she did. She had an opportunity to create a video in order to be in a contest to win money, funding money for her business. And her intuition said, we done vision work and vibe work together already. And she chose to step in and do it. So that's the power of choice. Well, guess what? She didn't win the contest. But guess what? She got a call out of the blue from someone who had gone through the contestants of this contest, which was a local business in New Jersey, and a local business magazine in New Jersey, and contacted her to interview her and feature her in the magazine. Okay? So you can't make this stuff up. It wasn't what she thought she was doing, but it brought in an opportunity that was in alignment with her vision and her vibration. Okay, so there's one example. Here's another example. One of my clients, Sandy, was working part-time at a company. She had downsized into part-time purposely so she could work on her business on the side. And she said to me in one of our coaching sessions, she goes, I really want to start doing corporate work, corporate training work. And I said, excellent, and so it is. Let's just see what else is possible here. And She also didn't feel like going out and prospecting and cold calling companies, right? And I said to her, we have to listen to that. So it's not about necessarily not wanting to in terms of limiting beliefs, but she wasn't feeling called to do it. So knowing how the universe operates and that there's infinite possibilities, right? Listen to this story. So she walks into her part-time job. Now, let me back up real quick. She had taught a meditation class and had only 4 people sign up. She was a little bummed about it. But she held the class anyway. She had 4 people in the class. Okay, that's the little backstory. She walked into work, bumped in to one of those people, one of those 4 people in the class was in a different location than her work. She walked into work, into the lobby of this building, office building where her company is, one of many companies there. And she bumped into somebody in class, and that person said, "Oh my gosh, Sandy, I can't believe I see you here." And they were like, "I can't believe I see you either." This person was on a business on a different floor of the same building. And she said to Sandy, I've been meaning to contact you since the meditation class. I want to talk to you about bringing your work into my company. Okay. So, there would be a day where I would have said, you can't just sit on your sofa eating bonbons, envisioning and have the universe operate on your behalf. But actually you can. I now know that that is possible. Some of you know my progress through thinking I was moving to Virginia and now ending up in North Carolina, which, by the way, if you can see out the window, the marina is out there, which is where I'm living now. So you have to stay present in that vision and be open to that possibility. So when I say flow, flexibility, lightness, openness, and wonderment, that's all the things that I'm talking about today. So for Sandy, she was visioning what it is she was wanting, and then out of the blue, she had this opportunity. Another client of mine went to a social gathering and was chatting it up over cocktails and ended up getting linked through to a connection and an opportunity for his business. So these are all evidences of why flow works. Now remember, we have this ability to harmonize what it is we're creating for our entire life design, not just work, yet also staying present, because otherwise you're missing the clues and you're missing the opportunities. And again, that's what I'm going to show you with my sticky note action planning a little bit later. So I love those examples, and I have a bazillion more for my life as well, but that gives you a couple examples of the crossover between life and work, and why the pitfall of writing just a business plan can limit you in terms of scope and possibilities. Because when you're that soul-powered entrepreneur, when you're creative thinking, when you're spirally, when you're open to those possibilities, then you know that there's other forces acting on your behalf. So why limit it? Okay. So we talk about flexibility. I've given you some examples already of that. The lightness is a clue to what it is you should be doing. So if you're writing a plan and it feels heavy energetically, then it's a sign that it may not be right for now. Everything's for now, by the way. So we're always looking for that energetic lightness of the connection to a task or an initiative or something that an idea that we want to create in our business. And it goes against all reason with people who are planners. I remember the first time I used sticky notes in my corporate life, and I had a manila folder that I showed my boss at the time that had the days of the week across it on the manila folder, and I had sticky notes of all my tasks on the days of the week that I was going to target getting them done. And I said, isn't this great? Like, I can peel a sticky note off and put it on a different day if I can't get it done that day. And he kind of went, well, I guess that's one way to do it, but aren't there deadlines, And I thought to myself, interesting, right? Because I was looking for flexibility even in my corporate life, but even my boss did not see the wisdom of using the sticky notes. So the sticky notes afford you to check in with that task to see if there's energetic lightness around that task in that moment in order to accomplish it, okay? So let me check my notes here. Oh, yes. Okay. I talked about some of this already. So we know that we want to harness our natural selves as that creative being that we are. And we also know that we walk the planet in a physical realm, and we also get to operate there. Sometimes that span in between is far reaching, like it seems like a huge bridge, like to bridge that gap. So we have to find a way to self-manage, just like I did in corporate with that example. I found a way to manage myself with those sticky notes. I found a way to be myself in my corporate setting and still meet my deadlines and be flexible with what I wanted to do. We also have that opportunity as business owners and entrepreneurs. And by the way, if any of you are on the call who are in your career or looking at career change or in job search or something like that, this applies to you as well. It's all the same concept, it's just a different application. So by putting an architecture or the framework around it, then you can see how you can operate in a flowy way within that architecture. So for me, the architecture is what I said before: vision, vibe, voice, and voyage. Okay, all my little V words. That's the architecture. That if you are knowing that that's how you're going to be navigating, then the lightness that you're feeling in the moment to choose a certain task or project, you know it's going to be aligned with you. Even if it doesn't make sense to anybody else around you, it is aligned with you and what you're choosing for yourself, your life, and your business. So these sticky note plan that I'm going to show you is going to show you how you can navigate that way and have all of these things at play at once. Now, within that vision, vibe, voice, and voyage, the voice part is about asking questions of the universe so that you're calling in the possibilities. So it's not like, universe, what should I do tomorrow? It's like, universe, I wonder what it would look like if I had a client a week coming into my business. That's a question. And it's not to be answered because the universe is going to fulfill that request. Okay. Now, the other thing about asking is that the ask can be around with the human beings on the planet. So remember, we're bridging, operating in the possibilities, the infinite possibilities of the universe, and we're walking a physical plane. So in front of us in this physical plane are other physical beings, other humans, I call them. So we get to also ask and connect through to them, just like my one client did at the cocktail party. If he hadn't have developed his vision and his vibe and his voice, he wouldn't have had that navigation opportunity or that voyage opportunity. Okay, so the questions are key, and those surround and apply to all of those four elements of the architecture or the framework for flowing. So another thing I like to do is paint a picture in words. So if you're thinking of flow and you think of yourself, let's say on an inner tube floating down the lazy river in flow, you still are in choice that as you pass things along the way that you're grasping them and that you're pulling them in. If you were to pull everything in just because there was something there, you'd sink the inner tube, right? Because it's not all aligned. Some of it will be. So as you float down this flow, instead of a plan of your life, of your business, and you are centering and knowing that you're choosing in alignment with you, then you're going to be picking the right things. You're going to have a lot of distractions, bright, shiny objects come in. But when you check back in and say, hey, is this aligned with my vision? Then you'll be able to choose in the most appropriate way for you. Some of them may come to fruition and some of them may not. You, just like my client Cheryl, who's on the call, she thought she was going into a contest to win money to fund her business, but instead she's going to get lots of traction by being featured in a magazine article in the local community, and she serves local business owners. So how does it get any better than that? But she didn't plan it. She didn't make it a goal to be interviewed for a magazine, but she followed the lightness in the moment. And that is that is really the key, so that we can flow down that lazy river, choose things that are aligned and that serve everybody. Okay. So before I move to the SNAP, the Sticky Note Action Plan, SNAP, another acronym, so I know it's spirit-led, and actually a friend of mine, David Deutsch, gave me that idea when he and I were talking about this a couple of years ago. So before I show you that, I want to give you a couple other perspectives around planning. Yeah, I think that's the best way to say it, and I have it on my notes over here. So some of you know that I follow Access Consciousness. You can look up accessconsciousness.com or .org, I'm not sure which one, but it's a practice, and I use a lot of those tools in that practice. I'm not a certified facilitator, but you don't have to be to use the Access tools. So I was listening to an Access teacher, and I want to share with you what she said about planning, let's say. So she calls them priorities, setting priorities and targets. And that's really aligned with my way of doing. So that's my SNAP plan. So when I saw what she wrote, I thought I would share it. And this is Corey Michelle, by the way, if you guys want to look up Corey Michelle with Access Consciousness. I like giving people credit for where credit is due. So one of the things that she asked is, who do I need to be? Like, who do I need to be? And what do I need to do? What can I create now so I can have that, right? So this came out of a class she actually did on money. So this is another topic that I cover a lot with my clients, because we have a limited and sometimes self-sabotaging view of money. And so when Corey was teaching this class, she said, you know, as soul-powered entrepreneurs, we aren't motivated by money. Many of us are not motivated by money. Well, I just want to make enough to pay the bills, or, you know, I just want to help people, or whatever. It isn't either or, friends. It is both and, okay? So she talks about these setting priorities towards your target. So setting a target of something, but then knowing what your priorities are so you can get there. So again, here's what she said. Who do I need to be? What do I need to do? What can I create now so I can have that? So what she'll say is, oh, I want to go on vacation in Italy. Okay, that's one of her choices in her life. She's like, and so she asks these questions. Who do I need to be? What do I need to do? What can I create now so I can have that? So instead of saying some arbitrary number, like an old coaching program I was in said, oh, 10,000 a month, that's your goal. Well, if 10,000 a month doesn't motivate me, if money doesn't motivate me, then how is that really my goal? So if instead I said, wow, I want a fun car to drive, which most of you know this story if you know me at all on Facebook or whatever, I want a fun car to drive. What do I need to do to have that? And within a month of me choosing to ask those questions, I had a Spice Orange Mini Cooper convertible with heated seats show up in my life, which was exactly the car that I was choosing. So that's one way to look at planning as well, is to kind of turn it on its head to say, well, if I'm not motivated by money, what am I motivated by? What do I choose for my business, for my life, for my relationships, for my community, for my volunteerism? Okay. Now, here's another. I saw a video, and I'm regretful that I did not write this gentleman's name down, but I got these 3 questions from him, from his video, where he was also saying, why do you need a plan, you know? So he says, what experiences do I want to have? So instead of planning, he asks himself, what experiences do I want to have? So you can see how this is similar to Corey Michelle's example. In my case, it was I wanted to live in a place that was warmer, that had friendly people, that had a feeling of community, which is why I thought I was heading to Virginia. And then the actions I was taking to Virginia started to fall through. So instead of forcing it to happen, which I could have easily done, I could have found some apartment, even though the one I was looking at fell through, but I knew I would be forcing it. So I stepped back into my vision so that I could recenter with my vibe or my resonance. And when I voiced myself, a client said, well, you're not moving to Virginia? Well, what do you think about North Carolina? And that's how I am now in North Carolina because North Carolina still represents warmer, friendly, and community. Okay, so those are the characteristics that were a part of my vision of the experience I wanted to have in my living situation. Okay, question number 2 by this guy: how do I need to grow? Is another question he asks. How do I need to grow? And I love that question because as soul-powered people, let's just drop the business owner entrepreneur. As soul-powered people, we have an innate drive to evolve. We have surrendered to our divine assignment of evolving, of being evolving people. And usually what hiccups us is when we are stopping our evolution, knowingly or unknowingly. Often when we feel stuck or we're procrastinating or we're afraid, it's because we're interrupting the natural evolution that happens in our being. So this question of how do I need to grow opens up the opportunity to keep that evolution going. Now, if we were, again, to keep that scope narrow, like the plan, the NN plan is narrow, and we kept it only on our business, we would never ask this question, right? We would never ask this question, how do I need to grow? And so when you're consistently investing in the being that you are, the divine being that you are, no one can ever take that away from you. All of your knowledge, skills, abilities, talents, experiences will always be a part of you and add to your value. This is part of the reason why we have a skewed, often, perspective of money, is that we think money is value. But if I were to lose everything today, I could take all of my knowledge, skills, abilities, talents, and experiences and go and create something new, right? I am not dependent on money for that. So how do I need to grow is a beautiful question. How do I contribute? Like, how do I want to contribute? Now, the word contribution is used a lot also in Access Consciousness. So I don't know, maybe he's a practitioner, I just didn't know it. But when we ask, how can I contribute? It takes us out of ourself and takes us into our sacred service, or our divine work, as I like to call it. So when I ask, how can I contribute, then I am calling in the opportunities that are there for there to be a contribution exchange. And that also goes way beyond goals or plans, right? So his 3 questions were, what experiences do I want to have? How do I need to grow? And how do I contribute? Okay, so that is a 3rd perspective. Now, I came across the 4th one, and I want to share that as well. Angela Johnson is also Access Consciousness, and I saw a little video of hers about 6 months ago, and she was creating classes or something, for her work, her business. And here are the questions she asked, because she is in a service or consulting/coaching capacity, so she's always thinking about her clients, okay? So that's the context here. And actually, I might even clarify. I think in this video, she was talking about sales conversations specifically, like talking to prospective clients. So here's what she asks herself. Are they willing to receive from me? Are they willing to receive from me? So I also specialize in serving coaches and consultants and trainers and holistic practitioners. And so we often see an opportunity and we see a dollar sign, right? Oh my gosh, this is money. It's a client, it's business, and I need the money, so I'm going to take it. But if you say, are they willing to receive from me? This is going to help you choose the ideal client for you for now, okay? Number 2, will this be fun for me? Okay, when I show you my colorful sticky notes, you'll see, of course, I love sticky notes. You might like something different, which is okay too, but I love sticky notes. Will it be fun for me? So if I'm going to choose this work with this client, will it be fun for me? And I have chosen opportunities that are outside of my service offering in my business because of yes to the first question, are they willing to receive from me? Number 2, will it be fun for me? Thirdly, is what they're asking for a match for what I enjoy contributing. So for example, let's see, I am really good at copywriting for my clients, but I don't love going away and writing without it being in the dynamic interaction with my client. I have lightness of being when we're creating together with the copywriting rather than me going away. Can I do it? And do I do it well? I think the answer is yes. But it's not my highest lightness energetically to contribute in that way. So when you ask this third question, is what they're asking for a match for what I enjoy contributing, then you can stay more aligned with those 4 V's of vision, vibe, voice, and voyage by saying, asking these questions. So again, are they willing to receive from me? Will this be fun for me? Is what they're asking a match for what I enjoy contributing? And this is how Angela, with 2 L's, if you look her up, this is how Angela decides what she's going to do and how she's going to work with people. So I love that as well. All right, I'm going to take a sip of water. I'm going to start showing you my sticky notes now. Now we're at 45 minutes already, so I've run a little long. So I'm going to keep going so that you can see this. I will stay as long as you guys want to after I'm done with questions. And I will also invite you to call me or ping me if you want to chat over some of this stuff. Okay, hold on one second. Since I'm running long. Okay, so I'm going to show you some visuals. Now, you're not necessarily going to be able to read what's on the stickies, but I want to show you my class outline for today. Look at this. This is my class outline. Now, I've told you guys I love stickies, so this is how I chose to do my class outline. There was a day when I would read from a piece of paper when I taught a telephone class, and I've now evolved here into stickies. So just as I said at the top of the hour, you're going to hear this iteration of planning from me, and you're going to see where I've ended up today. So when I was in corporate, I did formal business planning for people and myself, and I oversaw a sales force of 100 people with their business and their sales plans. So I went from writing that hard plan, just like I went from reading off my class off of a piece of paper, and moved into a more loose way of teaching now and a more loose way of planning. So I'm going to use one example so you can see the example. Actually, I'm going to use 2 examples. And you can always replay this video at this point. So make a note at, say, the 45-minute point. You can come back to the video replay and take a look at the sticky notes. So one very common thing for business owners is they say, I need to redo my website, okay? Or I need to do my website. So the first thing I would say is why, okay? So I'm going to get behind their why, remember what I said earlier, so that they can connect to what it really means to present the website, okay, or to bring the website into the world. The other thing that happens when I take them back is that we're then able to reconnect with that vision so that they are aligning their activities with that vision, okay, with what it is that they want to do. The other thing that I do before we start planning the tasks is I want them to create a theme either for the quarter. I like to look at things seasonally, actually, or a theme for the month. So, for example, my client Cheryl, for December, her theme for December was probably launching. She launched her new book, her new workbook, and we're moving it into a Kindle book and possibly a paperback book as well. So today was her launch date for the e-workbook version. That's now her opt-in on her website. So for her, December was all around that ebook launch and creating a theme around it. So again, I like to create themes because remember, we want to evoke the vibe, the vibration, and the resonance. So I say all that because the website is what's going to show up when my clients say they want to do something, but I'm going to take them back, and you can do this for yourself. Why is it that I'm feeling led to do this? And is it aligned with my vision? Is it going to be aligned with my vision and my vibe so that I cannot be going off bright, shiny object or going off too far off path? Okay? So to create a website, I'm going to see if I can't introduce this to you, and I'm going to hold it up to the camera. So normally the task on the to-do list is create my website. Well, that's what finished looks like. Creatives are really good at seeing what finished looks like, but losing sight of the depth and the breadth of what it is that they're doing. So you can see the top of this paper is website, okay? So what I've done is I've broken down the website into, I only want to show you the side, by the way, into these tasks. So do you see how they're different colored stickies? Okay. And I don't know if they're backwards for you. That may not be helping you at all, actually, to hold this up. So this is how I do the major tasks. So I'm going to read you these 4 tasks behind websites so you can write them down as the example if you want. The first one is find a designer or developer. This obviously assumes you're not going to do it yourself. Number 2 is write the content. Number 3 is create the imagery, which is videos, images, and photos. Number 4 is to create the opt-in, because quite honestly, why have a website if you don't have an opt-in? Okay, just saying. That's a whole nother topic for another day, but for now, I'll say that's the 4th. So find a designer developer, write the content, create videos and images and photos, and create the opt-in. So now you thought that your task was to redo your website, but now you have 4 what I now will call major tasks. Each of those tasks, or what I call actions, have steps below it that you're going to need to do. So you in fact don't have 4, you've got 16. 16 tasks. Do you see these little stickies? I'm going to hold it up. And if they're backwards or not, I'm sorry, I didn't know Zoom did backwards. So do you see now all these little stickies? So I'm just going to give you one example, okay? So when I talk about writing the content, you thought that was one task, but it's not. It's 4 tasks, minimum 4 tasks as one example here. Task 1 under write content is create the outline. Number 2, write the services page. Number 3, write the about page. Now there'll be as many stickies as there are pages on your website. So if you're writing a 10-page, if you're going to do a 10-page website, you've got to write copy for 10 pages. Now, you might hire a copywriter. If that's the case, then that's a task as well to vet copywriters, okay? Then you might need to create your scheduling links, okay, for your content as well. So if you use TimeTrade or Acuity or something like that. Those are the 4 tasks, or what I call steps, that are underneath write content. And do you see how that could expand really greatly if you are writing a lot of pages? And so the reason that these are the pink ones, the reason that I put the pink ones, for the pink ones on the little flags, okay, these are like those book flags, is that you can then peel it off. So I'm just going to show you, peel it off. Okay, now you have this sticky, and you see how they're color-coded to match? So you know which sticky pertains to which thing. Now I happen to use a planner, a paper planner, okay? So I want to show you the kind that I like. The kind that I like has, do you see how it has the hours and the minutes? Hours and minutes. And why is that? Because now I can take this sticky and I can put it on a particular day. So in this case, I put it on Monday at 8 a.m. so that I could earmark the time. I use flags because it covers about an hour and a half of space on these. And then you can line up other tasks below it. Okay? So why are they on stickies? They're on stickies because when life happens and your business happens, you can say, whoops, got that phone call from the editor that I now need to be interviewed for that article in the magazine, like Cheryl did, and she has to keep sight of this task, but she can move it to another day. This is the flexibility of sticky note action planning, okay? Is that you can address when life happens and move things around and not lose sight of them. If you're keeping to-do lists and you're getting lost in the linear way that that to-do list is written, this is a way to break out your to-do list. Even if you just put your to-do list on stickies like this, that would be helpful. Because remember, we are visually prompted and we aren't good at linear thinking. So when we have these actions, as I called it, so the actions, and then we write all these little stickies, we can then assign ourselves or others, right? If you have a VA, you now know what tasks to assign your VA or virtual assistant, okay? And by looking at this in this way, it makes it flexible because you don't lose sight of it. When things are on a linear list, and you intend to do something, like we know we love to scribble off things, right, off a to-do list, but it's not visually enhanced or visually prompted. When you look at this, now I have an 8.5, this is just a piece of typing paper, people. You don't have to buy a planner, but if you do, this is how you would use the planner. It's in an 8.5 by 11 size. You can keep it in a folder. You can punch holes inside and put it in a notebook. And remember, this is just the website task. So you could have multiple sheets of paper for multiple initiatives that are feeling aligned with your vision and your vibe. So, but this is visually pleasing for us, and it keeps everything, technical term, chunked. It keeps everything chunked for you so that you can see the major actions that you need to do, but then not lose sight of the tasks, so, or the steps. So these tasks shouldn't have more than an hour's time on any one sticky, an hour's time. So you might say spend an hour researching developers for your website if that's one of your steps, because otherwise researching developers could take all day long, okay? So you want to make sure that each task will fit into the chunk of time, either of the day or of the plan. Otherwise, you're going to get lost and caught up in your spiral thinking, and you're going to start by researching on Google web developers, and you're going to end up reading about, the sex life of the tarantula, right? Or something, because that's how our minds think, right? So this is going to keep you on task. Now, I want to show you my month at a glance. Now, this is called a passion planner, the one that I have here. But you can also in Staples find a planner like this that has a month view. Do you see how this is the month? Okay. So it has the month, but then it also has the week into hours like this, okay? So look at my month view. Do you see how that's color-coded? Now, those of you on this class know that I'm launching classes. So this is my launch plan for my classes. I have a Tuesday class, which is my pink class. I have this orange, which is the very next day that I need to start promoting the next class. That's what this is telling me I now need to promote the next class. And then this is telling me what copy I need to write for the next week's class. So this is an example. Here's my SNAP workshop over here for Saturday, the number 2. And then you'll see what January says. Again, if it's not backwards, January 2018 is flow. That's my theme for January, is flow. So that was no surprise there, right? Okay, so that shows you my month view. So when I have this plotted out with the general things that I'm going to be doing on different days of the week, Then when I flip back here and I have planned out my tasks, I can now put them in the exact hour that I'm going to be working on it, right? So again, these are my tasks. This is a website example, but this is how it would look for planning it out. Now, some of you, your head is spinning, right? You're going, oh, Christine, my eyes are glazing over. So here's the deal. What I find, so let's take my client Sandy as an example. What I find is that if you at least get to this stage, at minimum, if you get to this stage where you know that you've got an initiative and you have major chunks of actions to complete, that you almost don't have to do this piece of it, okay? Now, if you do, you're just going to be so much more efficient, but I don't think you have to when you are using the flow method, because you are painting a picture in your mind's eye about each of these major actions. And when you're using the other techniques like questions, calling it in from the universe, but also talking to other people about what it is you're doing here, you're going to start manifesting things without having to force yourself down into little tasks. Now, I still use the little tasks because I like the way that I plan on this planner. Now, the other thing that I'll say before I open it up for Q&A is that what I also find for creative thinking entrepreneurs is that when we use software that's inside our computer, out of sight is out of mind for us because we're visually prompted. So even with all the project management software out there like Asana and all these other things that are great, by the way, and they connect to your Google Calendar, etc., I happen to believe that we are better served by having something visual, okay? So I think that's why vision boards work so well for some people. I'm not a vision board person, I'm a sticky note person. But when it's out in front of us, it's prompting us, as opposed to it being inside the computer and not prompting us. So see if that rings true for you. It may not, but that's what I found for me. So actually what I do, technically, is I don't always use the daily anymore because I use my Google Calendar then for the tasks. So once I have flushed out my actions here, and then I have done the tasks, I will actually go into my Google Calendar and earmark an hour and a half of time for my different tasks so that I've got it in my calendar. And then at the end of the day, I will scan my Google Calendar, and if I didn't get around to a task that day, I will drag and drop it into a different day. So it's like a virtual sticky note. But don't forget to do that step, because otherwise your task is going to be